He raised 3 children for 15 years, only to find out not one of them was his. Imagine discovering your whole family was built on lies. What would you do, walk away or fight back? He didn't cry, he didn't beg. He sued his wife to court. Stay with me, because what happened next will make your heart stop. Before we begin, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and comment below where you're watching from, because this story will leave you speechless. Danny's world didn't shatter with a scream. It broke in silence inside a hospital corridor that smelled of disinfectant. Fear. He was holding the file the doctor had handed him, still expecting it to confirm what he'd believed for 15 years, but the words on the page didn't match his blood type, they didn't match his DNA, and they didn't match his children. He stopped breathing for a full second. The test wasn't even supposed to be about paternity. It was a medical check they requested for his second child, before a minor surgery. He had signed the consent papers without thinking twice. He had nothing to hide, nothing to question. But when the doctor casually mentioned that some genetic markers didn't align, Danny felt the floor tilt beneath him. The doctor thought it was a clerical mix-up. Danny didn't argue. He just asked for a private DNA test, one for all 3 children, and that was the moment his life quietly split in two, the man he used to be, and the man he was about to become. He didn't tell his wife, he didn't tell his friends, he didn't sleep for 3 nights straight. Hay lay awake, staring at the ceiling, counting his breaths and waiting for the results he prayed would prove his fear wrong. They didn't. When the envelope arrived, he opened it alone in his car. The first result burned his eyes. The second punched his lungs. The third one finished him. 3 children, 3 betrayals, 0 chance of mistake. He didn't cry, he didn't scream. He just sat there, gripping the steering wheel until his fingers went numb, staring through the windshield at a life that suddenly didn't belong to him. He drove home slowly, not with panic, but with a terrifying calm. He watched them, evening the way a stranger might watch another family through a window. The oldest cracked a joke, the youngest spilled juice, his daughter asked for help with homework, and all 3 smiled at him like nothing in the world was wrong. He forced himself to smile back. His wife Sharon moved around the kitchen, humming softly, acting like a woman with no secrets, acting like she hadn't built her comfort on his trust. He didn't confront her, not yet. He needed to be sure, he needed a plan. A man doesn't go to war with his heart, he goes with evidence. Danny didn't scream, he didn't confront her, he moved like a man holding a bomb no one else could see. Every word she spoke sounded different now. Every laugh, every good night felt like someone spitting on an open wound. The DNA results never left his jacket pocket. He started watching her the way a hunter watches movements in the dark. Silent, patient, calculating. Then one day he told her he'd be working late. She didn't ask questions, that was her mistake. Danny didn't go to work. He parked across the street from her office and waited. 3 hours later she walked out, not alone. A man in a navy suit touched her back like he'd done it 100 times. She didn't flinch, she didn't push his hand away. They stood too close, too familiar, too comfortable. They didn't go to a hotel. They went somewhere worse, an apartment complex, quiet, hidden, practiced. She entered first, the man followed. The door shut behind them. Danny sat there for 10 minutes, frozen between rage and proof. Then he drove home before her, planning his next move. When she finally walked through the door later that evening, her smile was gentle. "Traffic was crazy today," she said casually. Danny looked at her, and for the first time didn't see his wife, he saw the enemy. He didn't ask where she'd been, he didn't touch her, he just said one sentence and it made her freeze. "We need to talk tomorrow." He didn't add anything else, and for the first time she looked afraid. The next morning Sharon woke up before Danny, but his silence was different. At 7 p.m. sharp, they sat across from each other at the dining table. He slid 3 envelopes across to her, one for each child. She opened the first one, then the second, then the third. Her hands began to shake. "Whose children are they?" Danny asked. She whispered, "Danny, please." He swam the table names. Tears came instantly. It was a mistake. 3 mistakes, he barked. When she couldn't answer, he stood up and said quietly, "I'm filing charges, not just divorce fraud, emotional damage, financial compensation. You're going to face this in court." She tried to stop him. She begged, cried, even offered to call the real father. He picked up her phone, saw the saved names, the messages, the lies. He smashed it on the floor. "You had time to plan betrayal," he said. "Now I'll plan justice." That night he didn't sleep in their room. She cried until morning. By dawn he'd already moved his documents, laptop and car keys. When he came back, two men followed him, one from his lawyer's office, one from the court. They handed her a document, petition to sue for paternity fraud and damages. Her world collapsed. Within a week the story spread. Neighbors whispered, her relatives called. Danny said the same thing to all of them. "Tell her to come with her lawyer. I'll talk in court." On the court day, Danny arrived in a black suit, not for style but for burial. He wasn't burying a marriage. He was burying 15 years of lies. 3 men sat in court, one for each child. She stood before the judge, broken. Her excuses sounded weak, her tears powerless. The judge asked how much Danny was demanding. He said the number. It wasn't small. It was the total of 15 years, everything he ever spent, multiplied by pain. When the session ended, she reached for him. "Danny, please don't let this be the end." He paused, looked her in the eyes, and said, "This is not the end, this is the receipt." He walked out first. She stood there, holding the paper that carried the price of her secrets. After that day, she stopped begging, because she finally realized something no lie had prepared her for. A man who suffers in silence is more dangerous than a man who screams in anger. And Danny was done screaming before he ever opened his mouth.